about long-term retirement names, it's tough because management changes. Management can ruin any good company, can be ruined by bad management. People get fed up, they don't want to work there anymore. So how do you find a business that's that good? I mean, Coca-Cola, there's a couple companies like that, but they're generally not in my industry. My industry requires management. The products just aren't that good. The products are easy to make copies of. So there's no cultural advantage at Eli Lilly. There's no cultural advantage at any drug company. Its software is largely the same as well. Any other software company with better management, better product can come knock them off the block. So those kinds of like really long-term plays, they basically have to be structural business advantages. J&J is just a drug company now. You know, they spun off consumer, and it's 80% of the profits are drugs, like 20% med tech, and the med tech stuff is very drug-like anyway. So yeah, someone like Coca-Cola or Disney, that's something that can last forever, and you get earnings yield at the end of the day, right? Coca-Cola is going to pay you dividends. You get something from the investment. So yeah, this is free cash flow for Micron. Isn't this amazing? You run your chip business for 4 years, and almost all the profits are wiped out in 1 year. Now, it's actually still right net. Let me do this. So I'm going to trail cash flow. So this is 2-year moving average. This is a 3-year moving average. And this is a 4-year moving average. Let's get some more years, right? This is interesting. It's starting to get saucy. It takes a long time to analyze the security properly. On Wall Street Bets, a lot of people laughed at me when I said it takes hundreds of hours. I was wrong. It could take thousands of hours. You want to make decisions in 5 minutes. Why? Because you get that itch you got to scratch. You're addicted. It's definitely a pleasure, and that's why Warren Buffett is happy to go to work. He used to call it tap dancing to work. Well, Micron picture looking a little bit better here. It looks like last year was just a really horrific year for semis. Not semis, for DRAM. Because like if you just take this snapshot, this window, right? Made $18 billion over those 5 years. Free cash flow, right? And if you did a PE ratio on that, it's 5 times earnings. Oh, what a deal, right? 6 times earnings. What a deal. Isn't it crazy? They had $30 billion in 2018 in revenue. Goes all the way down to 21, back up to 30, back to 15, and I think they're going to do more than what they're going to do, 25 this year. That's guidance, official number basically. So in years where they do 25 billion for them is like break even.
A nigga like me, man, I love the game. I love the hustle, man.
What is our cash flow number? It's amazing, huh? If you look at it on a backward-looking basis, Micron's pretty solid. That's why they've become one of the biggest semiconductor companies, right? Now can we look at the stock price at the end of the year? I actually have this on Godel. Let me see here. It takes a while. Let me see this feature. I want to see GIP, graph intraday price. But if you want to pull up the chart since forever ago with high resolution, you actually can do that in Godel. It actually loads every tick in the history of the company. So this it renders the first 5 years, but look what happens if you scroll backwards. You get tick resolution since the IPO, or day resolution at least. You can relive trading it. Micron's on a wild ride. You can actually get tick by tick from way back when. Try it out. So let's see, end of year 2024. I'm making a table function as well for table prices, but for now I'll do it like this. Should be like one command you can run to get this. It'd be like Micron, equity, HP, and then Y. HP space Y. That would be the way you would do it on... Let me look actually. Can you do that on the rival platform? I'm not sure. This is a rival legacy platform that basically not, you know, I'm probably going to discontinue it. It's so bad. I'm just going to sunset it. There's no need for this platform anymore. Yeah, HPY. We don't need to use their name. Okay, 𝗕𝗢𝗄𝗧𝗏 does work, so we need to implement that ASAP. You heard me, Dev. You heard me, Dev. I know you're watching. Get to work, bro. Now, what's funny is that this is the calendar year. Hold on. It's the calendar year. So I actually don't want the annual. I want the year end of the fiscal. So I kind of want the price on the literally maybe the date, but I think this is good enough, honestly. For our current purposes, probably fine. We can get the exact price. I'm not sure it's gonna make a difference. You almost like maybe you want the average price for that period. And again, that should be relatively easy to do, even with the legacy platform, which costs about, what is it, 10 times Godel? No, wait. 20 times Godel? Is that right? No, it's even more. 62.5 times Godel. Wow. And you could have gotten it for cheaper, but we are going to raise the price, so lock in today. Although we're growing a little too fast, so I actually prefer if you wait and think about it, just so my monthly, quarterly numbers look good. So I'm doing all this long-term analysis, so when I want growth, I can do some short-term analysis. So I want you to look at the graph of the stock price versus the earnings. And I actually, maybe you guys can teach me how to do this on Excel, because they've changed Excel a lot since I was a kid. I need these on 2 different axes. So I want one going to the left and one going to the right. That's what it used to be in Excel. The instruction somebody's giving me right now, that's what I used to do, right? So right-click the data set. I'm right-clicking, nothing's happening. Select data. Is this series 2, allegedly? This is a PC. Format plot area, format data series. Format chart area. I don't see format data series. Format data series. Thank you. Very good. My man. He did it. We did it. We did it. Who's that, man? Who's that? You gotta send me an email. I gotta get you Clifford Long. You might take over for the OG, man. I might have to hand the torch to you. I don't spend all day in Excel like I used to. Might gotta hand the torch over. You can send me an email, martin@𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Martin you need, man. You deserve it. Just ask me what you need. You want some dough? You want personal consultant service? I can tell you got your mind on the game. You're doing this stuff all day. All right. So the orange line is the stock price, and the blue line is free cash flow. So this is annual free cash flow. What's the correlation? There's actually a function in Excel called correl, which is really interesting. We were doing a video game. We no longer are doing it. We do a lot of different things at DL Software. So the correlation coefficient is actually negative. You want to buy Micron when the cash flow is the worst. This is very light comparison of what quants do for a living. They do it in much more data, much more sophisticated ways. Let's get some more data. Let's see how that correlation coefficient holds up. You cannot trust the patterns. Thank you. Chatan asks this question. Can you trust the patterns? No. So yeah, you can't trust data. You can't trust markets. It's not easy. You're in a probabilistic game. If you ever catch yourself saying, well, every time this happens, the stock goes up or something like that, there's no every time. As always, I upload all these models on my GitHub, so you can always check them out there. If you want to go over them yourselves, save them, modify them. GitHub's very easy to learn. You, in fact, don't need to download anything. Just you can download them off GitHub. But if you learn the command line of GitHub, it's maybe a little bit more useful, but it's really up to you. Notice I'm just skipping to the cash flow statement. I don't really care about anything else. Okay, finally, they had another trough back here. Correlation coefficient has changed quite a bit. At this point, these things aren't correlated at all. So stock price, free cash flow. No, I just want to help. Eric, a lot of people think I'm a bad guy. And the more things I do to help people, the more people will say, hey, no, wait a second. I know that Shkreli guy. He's not so bad. To the point where half of Wall Street new trainees grew up on my videos. I'm really happy about that. Everyone at Goldman Sachs, shout out to GS here in New York. Hope you guys all become rich. Just working at Goldman Sachs, you're already rich. You're blessed. DJ Khaled. Many such cases, Almir. So many people in venture capital, private equity. You know, you guys will teach me, you know? I mean, I learn every time I talk to you. You ask me good questions. I've learned more from my employees, coworkers, mentees, students than I have learned myself. So, you know, people ask a good question. Why not this? Why not that? How about this? Have you considered that? And through that process, I've slowly created one of the best, I think, processes for looking at securities with everybody's help. It's almost like crowdsourced intelligence. So a little bit more here. It looks like Micron was almost like a smaller company, much smaller company back then. And it's funny, their revenue is the same as it was 10 years ago. But that was just because the industry was really, really crappy for a couple of years, it looks like. Or just the last 12 months was the worst DRAM glut ever. Seems like just really bizarre, you know? Like, here you actually have correlation starting to increase. Not positive correlation, probably. You could do R² in your head. Only improved a little bit. So this is cash flow. This is profitability, right? 0. And the stock price just increased. I think this was like just a very aberrant thing. And if I can actually get free cash flow here. So let's assume what are we going to assume? We actually have most of 2024. It's basically flat. So what's Micron's stock price now? Like 90? Really can't make any sense of it, right? No rhyme or reason. The correlation coefficient says they're slightly negatively correlated. Slightly. So you slightly want to buy when cash flow drops like a rock. But this is only, you know, you can't really trust this linear regression because there's so many other factors at play, hidden variables. Like, what about the rest of the stock market? Can you control for that? If we control for beta, what does it look like? It could be really interesting to do that. What if we add other companies that are highly cyclical? Will that tell us something? And once you do all that, you can really come up with a decent algorithm that might be able to not guarantee you profits, but probabilistically provide some profits. So as a quant, you have to sit there and study and think and analyze and play with all these numbers and have a lot of mathematical sense around you. Like, you really have to be strong at knowing all the tools in the mathematical toolkit. So if you don't know the simple correlation, that's a pretty rudimentary way to do things. You have to know things like t-SNE. Y'all know t-SNE? You're not t-SNEing. What are you even doing? What are you even doing? K means clustering. No, this would be an algorithm for all cyclical tech companies, basically, that you felt were just like similar enough to Micron. And there are plenty around the world. There's other DRAM makers, for starters. And I know for every 100 viewers, there'll be like 1 or 2 that will be like, okay, I'm going to learn t-SNE. That's Shkreli says that's important. I want to learn it. And those are the guys that will become billionaires. There have been many people who became billionaires on these videos. But it wasn't because of me. It was within them all along. I didn't have anything to do with it. I can't take the credit for that. Micron's only had 2 negative cash flow years in the last 10 years. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, some of the algos lose over time. Yeah, Darren. Yeah. If you look at the investor list for DL Software, almost all those guys watched my videos. It's a lot of the leaders in technology and investing. But again, those people would have been successful anyway. You know, there's no causality necessarily. Those people are looking all around the internet for anything. Oh, what can I learn? How do I get better? So those people would have been just fine whether or not I was there at all. I'm glad that they had me in their recipe, but they must have had other videos they watched and other things that they did that contributed to their success. But it's funny that there's that commonality. And that's why I started to do videos again. I kind of quit. And then after the investors told me how important they were to their success, I said, maybe I should keep doing it. It just takes so much time out of my day. But it also energizes me, so I find myself, I have more time to head into the office after this and try to create some shareholder value. All right, here's cash flow from operations for 12 and 11. I need the stock price, which I have to use our rival to get. That won't, every time I have to do that, I'm gonna make it myself until I don't need the rival anymore. And the $2,500 rival is obsolete. So Micron stock was $6 back then. It's $100 now. So the orange line is just the stock price going up and up and up. The blue line is cash flow. What if I kept taking this average cash flow? Remember this setup? I really want you to pay attention to this line. If you look at this line, in any 3-year period, Micron had no year where it lost money. I would count this as flat. And if you looked at any 5-year period, you would count that, and that excludes, even that year. Now, sometimes you could take what's called a CAPE, or like cyclically adjusted PE ratio. So let's say you go backwards and say the average cash flow for the last 6 years was 11 billion. Free cash flow. That's a lot. That's over 6 years. That's 9 times earnings. The historical cash flow. I mean, cash flow should go up over time, right? The Micron could be pretty attractive. All these AI chips are going to need DRAM, but I don't know that they're going to, they don't do GPU stuff, right? So the servers need the RAM, but for data loading, but I don't know if how important the DRAM is. I have to ask some of my engineers. $50, Micron's too cheap. Price versus value. Well, we try to find value and then expect price will show up. That's my motto. I just do discounted cash flow. Look how far back we're going. This is fun. Well, it's fun for a nerd like me, but hopefully it's fun for you too. It really grew low gross margin for a while, ranging between -9 and +32. It got up to 59% gross margin. That's after depreciation. Yeah, they basically never lost money if you extend the window to 3 years. They've never lost money over more than 3 years. And the average is closer to 4 billion free cash flow, because that includes some of their early years. But their peak, the absolute peak, was that 2018 period where it's just madness. They just made a fortune. Will they come back to that? Or will the peak be even bigger next time? You look at that, it's cheap stock. If you look at the most recent average 3-year period, it's not so cheap. What's up, Carter? So Micron is making HBM3E. That's a big deal. It's a very big deal. Formula for free cash flow. It's cash flow from operations, which is this line. It's the first of the 3 parts of the cash flow statement, minus CapEx, which is just one element of the cash flow from investing part of the cash flow statement. Okay, so really going back in time now, not that far, honestly. The old days of Micron. Stock price just up and to the right. Cash flow bouncing around break even. They have this huge boom. They have this huge bust. Tricky one. I mean, given that NVIDIA, they're a supplier of NVIDIA, I'm pretty bullish on NVIDIA. They're pretty profitable regardless. Maybe we can see a $200, $300 billion Micron. 𝗕𝗢𝗙𝗀𝗧 was in cash flows right now, but the stock didn't drop. Last year, the last fiscal year, the company lost $6 billion. I don't know if repetition is the only key to success. It doesn't hurt. I wish there was one key to success. I'm still figuring it out myself. Passion doesn't hurt. Okay, now if you take that 3 years and go back, there was a period in the great financial crisis where they did lose money. So my 3-year thing is kind of out the window. You'd have to do trailing 6 years or trailing 7 years for it to make more sense. And then if you do the average, I don't know, it's still cheap to me. I like it. Again, semis aren't my thing, and the boom-bust nature of semis is something you really got to understand. If you don't understand it, you can get crucified. Correlation now, going back 15 years or so, is literally 0. So this chart means nothing. There's nothing the chart can tell you. It's just descriptive at this point. We still have to check, right? Rippling guys? Yeah, absolutely. More than one rippling guy. Break even, break even, break even. Profit, boom, bust. Stock just goes up and up and up and up and up. It scares me a bit. This is way back when Micron just had a few billion a quarter. A few billion a quarter. A few billion a year in revenue. Now it's 30 billion. So price to sales multiple. Maybe we should look at that. What do you think? Would that be interesting? I almost never look at price to sales. Why would that tool make sense? Well, the stock price grew with revenue. Revenue is almost like predictive of stock price growth. Why? Well, I think stockholders trust that there'll be some benefit, right, there has to be, to them selling more chips, right? I want you to see what happened in the dot-com bubble. I want you to see it. It's going to be painful, but you need to see it. You need to experience what I experienced. Look at this price. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. I know it's hard. I should have done a viewer discretion video warning. It's for your own good. I hate it when people show me stuff I don't want to see on the internet. Okay, so yeah, $1, $40, back to $2, now up to, yeah, $100. A roller coaster, right? Yeah, enterprise value over sales is better, no doubt about it. You just have to go laboriously go through every piece of data here. I did not want to spend my day looking at Micron, but I will do anything for my Godellians. So yeah, let's see if we do price to sales. We can kind of do that this way. Not price to, yeah, we can do price to sales. All right, so we're just gonna, I guess, graph the factor, or graph the quotient or whatever. And basically, the stock price is a surrogate for market cap. So this is not too meaningful from a, like, what does this number actually represent? But it's sort of a multiple. It's a pretty just simple chart. But it shows you that, let's see, what's the average of this thing? The central tendency is 650, and sometimes the market gets ahead of itself, and sometimes the market gets below itself, which it's doing right now. And I would argue the market cap should be higher. But the stock price has increased as revenue has increased. And the correlation coefficient there could be very interesting. But imagine that's actually going to be What would you guys say? 0.5? It's gonna be 0.9? It's not gonna be 0.9. Maybe 0.5? Coral? Wow! 0.75. Revenue and stock price. Predict the revenue, you get the stock. Correlation coefficient equals Coral in Excel. This gives you the R squared, linear regression, stock price and revenue. Correlation coefficient goes between -1 and 1. So it's highly, highly correlated. Interestingly, right, free cash flow is not correlated. Why? Does that make sense to you guys? How much you sell, but not how much you make. Kind of crazy, isn't it? No correlation whatsoever to free cash flow. But huge correlation. I mean, that's just stunning. Think about how interesting that is. 30-year AI bubble. I think it basically is because free cash flow is not forward-looking. But it would still seem like you got to make money, right? But it's kind of backward-looking. Yeah, R squared is between -1 and 1. No, R squared can be, yeah, I guess you're right. No, I think you might be right, Kamal. Imaginary number, unless it's an imaginary number, right? No, could it be? I think you might be right there. I mean, that is so crazy to me. Revenue is more of a leading indicator, at least for the market, than free cash flow. The market's right, because the market is how we get paid, right? Who's to say the market is wrong over 20, 30 years? And if you know about the H200 and they're really going to be selling into that market, revenue is going to boom. No doubt about that. If they're really selling HBM, that's to the AI developer. I'll be connecting my interactive brokers shortly so you guys can see me pathetically try to live trade. Yeah, that's a really good question. One Godel user is asking, do the Ascendus results justify the sell-off in Biomarin? Biomarin's kind of been this big disappointment to me. It is now Voxzogo or whatever it's called Voxzogo is now like Biomarin's biggest drug. It's like kind of sad. They weren't able to deliver in hemophilia. It's been such a dog of a stock, but it is cheap. I just don't know. I don't think the 𝗠𝗏𝗄𝗧𝗧 market's going to change that much. If anything, like if you look at the old Replagal, Fabrazyme, or 𝗣𝗡𝗏, Cerezyme, in the rare disease market, there isn't a whole lot of switching. They may find their own good patients, but yeah, it's probably a buy. It's a buy even for the trade. Yeah, that's right, Arnav. India is a major financial market, so is China, and Bloomberg's just too expensive for most traders. Even TradingView is expensive.